welcome to Pathfinder, where we look into the transformative work of civil society organizations. Today, we're exploring how CSOs are reshaping natural resource management and conservation, how they enhance institutional and technical capacities, promote inclusive conservation, and advocate for equitable governance and human rights. I am Rachel Abioye, your host. I'm not alone in the studio. My guests will share their insights on making a real difference from grassroots initiative to influencing policy. We'll discuss the challenges they face, their successes, and the innovative strategies driving a more sustainable future. I have with me Silvanus Udueno. He's the Executive Director, Community Rights Education Advancement Pathway. You're welcome, Silvanus.
Thank you.
We also have Aliwu Sadiq. Aliwu is a sustainable development professional with 5 years of experience in leading projects and developing solutions targeted towards combating climate change and reducing environmental pollution in Nigeria. He's the CEO and Executive Director of EcoCycle, a social enterprise focused on empowering communities with skills and solutions needed to promote climate action and circular economy in Nigeria. It's good to have you, Aliwu.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for coming. And we have with us Daniel Audu. He's Environmental Program Officer, Community Rights Education Advancement Pathway. It's good to have you.
Thank you for having me.
Welcome back. So let's go right into the conversation. Silvanus, we're going to be talking about challenges, barriers as regards green economy generally. So let's talk about those barriers that you encounter when advocating for policies that support green economy in Nigeria and in Africa.
Okay, good afternoon, and thank you for having me again. For us, I'm just going to focus on our work at the Community Rights Education Advancement Pathway. And one of the major challenge that we have is funding, the issue of funding, which is, of course, it's common across all CSOs. And this is because, of course, you know that we are working more of like a non-profit, non-governmental organization. So most of our work, most of our activities are funded. And where there is no funding coming in, it becomes a major challenge for us to be able to deliver effectively. Looking at the grassroots community, you see that there is the issue of the lack of awareness on the part of the community, the people at the community level, the grassroots level, of course, who are the major people. The impact of the climate programs are actually on them primarily, and they don't really know the impact of the activities they do, the things they do on a daily basis, the bushes they burn, the trees they cut down, and many other activities that are both natural and they see it as a normal activity. They don't know the impact of these activities on the climate and the environment itself. So there is that need for us. Looking at it again, it's also a major challenge. That's why for us, we take it as a priority to raise awareness, to educate them in these areas, in the areas that they need to know on the issues of climate change. Thank you.
Thank you, Silvanus. So you talked about funding. You also talked about, educating people, because you talked about bush burning. They see these things as normal activities that should be done. They don't see anything wrong with it.
Yes.
And you said, educating them is a major problem, is a major challenge.
Very
now,
well.
for a village woman, let me use that word village, for someone in a village setting, who sees cutting down trees, for firewood, using them to cook, bush burning and all of that as normal activities. How do you really, tell these people? How do you make them understand that, oh, what I am doing is wrong? Because this is something they've been doing from day one. And you can't just come and say, oh, this is wrong, and they'll want to just take it. How do you really put this thing in them that, oh, what you are doing is wrong? How do you impact these people?
That's where we come in as an organization. we have a structured program that help us to, help us to attend to these issues at the community levels, individually, and of course also as a group. So we engage with stakeholders. We engage with stakeholders. These stakeholders could be the community leaders, could be the village heads and youth organizations that are also in the community. We engage with some of them that are individually, prominent opinion leaders, so that they can also be understand the impact of these activities on the climate, on the natural environment, and not just the village woman herself. I think there are other individuals and organizations, should I put it that way, that also contribute to the issues of climate. Environmental degradation. Let me use that term in the industries, the industrial productions, and even transportation that is going on. The transport activities that are also happening. It also has a major impact, and it poses a major impact on the climate. So we conduct a couple of orientation. We organize orientation activities, organize village engagement, engage with the stakeholders, the leaders of the community, to know the implication of these activities on the environment. And of course, I was speaking with someone a few days ago, and he was concerned about the report by, is it NIMET, is it Nigeria Meteorological Agency, and he was concerned about how that the NIMET keep publishing news reports of flooding that is of course imminent in few states, and without how they had I told him that that report is an authentic report, and there is a need to take it serious, because most of the things we do in our environment, we take it as it's just a normal activity. It doesn't have any implication, but in the end, these are the things that that contributes to the issues of flooding. You pour, the waste products, or the waste materials, and papers that you throw away on the gutter, for example. The waste papers that you throw away on the gutter, the clothes that you just discard indiscriminately, the things that you don't want, you discard them indiscriminately. Those things have a way of coming back to pose a threat to the sustainable environmental to the environment sustainability.
Thank you very much, Sylvanus. Let's come to you, Aliu. So let's talk about, management practices. We're talking about your organization now, your civil society organization. What sustainable natural resource management practices has your organization adopted or even promoted, and how do you ensure that these practices are inclusive and benefit everyone?
Thank you so much. One of our major drive, which inspired what we do today, is the issue of environmental pollution, the environmental resource depletion. And this is why we come in the part of contributing to circular economy. Circular economy, in the basics, is the adoption of practices that helps to ensure reduced generation of waste, that ensures that resources are used to the maximum. With this, industries, organizations, individuals have lesser amount of resources or natural resources to consume. This, beyond that, creates more economic opportunities, create job opportunities, and create and foster sustainable development. For my organization, for the past 5 years, we have been focused on empowering communities with circular economy skills. For example, farmers in Nasarawa State, farmers in the FCT, acquiring the skills that, rather than discarding the farm waste, which could generate methane, affecting the air, which is a natural resource, or polluting the water which is being used by communities to cook, to drink, having to acquire the skills that they can transform this waste into what's it called, briquettes, charcoal briquettes, which are more sustainable. In other words, going forward, it helps to reduce these women to go to, cut down these trees that again fosters deforestation. Beyond that, helping them to have skills on social entrepreneurship. Now, a woman can be able to create money, can be able to make earnings and support her family. Also, there's another project, for example, again, which we are engaging women for in Abuja FCT. We've engaged about 5 communities, over 500 women on waste recycling skills. The idea behind that is, again, we're talking about natural resources, the water, the land. Plastics, about 2.5 million tons of plastics are generated annually in Nigeria alone. Less than 15% is recycled. The remaining about 85% goes to the land, to the water, and cause a lot of pollution. Even the soil, there's a huge microplastic that causes contamination, affecting the food that we eat, affecting the soil's productivity level. So, in that regard, we are engaging these women to understand the value of recycling, that they can now engage in recovering this waste, a community inclusive approach, and then foster it can now help them to generate money. Testimonies from some of these communities, they now make more money rather than sitting at home idle and gisting with their neighbors to support their children's school fees and stuffs around that. Circular economy, for me, I see it as the pathway to sustainability, as the pathway to sustainable development, whereby industries, just few weeks ago, the National Council on Climate Change launched the not launched, it was launched in Dubai, but recently adopted the long-term low emission development strategy for Nigeria. And from the emission levels, agriculture, industries, are some, and transportation are some of the highest emitting sectors. So adopting circular economy ensures that these industries reduce their consumption of natural resources. And again, like what my brother said earlier, awareness is a big problem. There are a lot of communities that we engage. I tell you, the adoption level to these strategies or skills is really minimal. And that's why we have adopted a lot of strategies on education and advocacy, on trainings, to ensure that they see the value beyond just contributing to resource management. They see the economic value of contributing and solving this problem. So it creates economic benefits, social benefit, and environmental benefits. Let me stop here.
Okay, so would you say with all of these skills, you've been seeing results?
Sure. Results, yes, in the sense that, for example, personally, my organization, through our community waste recovery facility, we've extracted more than 300 tons of various waste. In terms of trainings, through our waste to briquette production, waste to interlock production, and so many other waste to resource production. We haven't just stopped in communities, we haven't gone down to schools, building toilets from waste products as a way of transferring the circular economy knowledge. In terms of impacts, some of these women have adopted these practices. Like the community I'm telling you about, the women in Karamajeje, the women in Durumi, the women in Galadima, they now engage in this. It's now like a culture to them. But what I'm saying is that there's still a gap. There's still a huge gap. And there's a lot of frustration to support the work that we do in scaling it up. Nigeria is so big. Africa needs this. But even in Nigeria, you find out that what stops me from going to Sokoto or going to Lagos to do this is resources. And the resource is shrinking. CSOs are facing more resource challenges and constraints. So this is why for we don't focus on grants 100%. We resource mobilize internally. We have our social enterprise that we're able to generate funds to support some of our projects because there's a gap. And this is one of the challenges I wanted to highlight. And then there's still, again, the issue of government cooperation and supports. Because just for example, last year, the climate change conference happened in Dubai. You need an accreditation to attend. to participate. I was lucky to attend, but it was extremely difficult. I didn't get my badge in Nigeria to attend, while we have a lot of young people who couldn't attend just because of those badges. So that shows that there is no support, and because the government will tell you, what are they going to do there? They are young people. This is, young people have a role to foster and contribute to climate action and natural resource management and so many other issues. So this is the gap. Beyond that, we had a lot of programs launched in Dubai. But coming back to Nigeria, the so-called government, released their report without involving the participation of young people. That was still a slap in the face, and it got a lot of retaliation by young people. And so there's huge gap in resources, not so much support from the government, and not so much community participation by community members. There are a lot of people who are enlightened, who are knowledgeable, but participation is still low.
My next question was going to be, resistance from policymakers, talking about the government. And you made mention of, the government being a major barrier, talking about the policies they give. Like you made mention of going to Dubai and all of that. Do you think the government is, let me put in quotes, like a major problem we have, talking about sustainable natural resource management and all? Do you think the government is one major barrier? Or do you think, they are doing their part, or they're not doing enough?
No. The government is not a major problem, because there are a lot of policies, I would say, that have come on board in the last few years that have really shown, government playing a role of policy.
But this policy is active.
I'll give you an example. It is one thing to come up with policies. It is another thing to implement policies. Coming up with policies, they have done very well. Just recently, the Circular Economy Roadmap was launched. The Climate Change Act was launched in 2020. We have the National Policy on Solid Waste Management. A lot more policies. We now have the EPR, Extended Producer Responsibility Policy by Nesria. Very commendable. LT, LEDS, Long-Term Low Emission Development Strategies. But then, the implementation level, they tell you we are to come up with policies. We are not solely responsible for implementation. That is the gap. Because, for example, now, industries that emit huge amount of, like, for example, the mining sector. For example, the companies that use limestone, I don't want to mention names, limestone for their production. The companies, the greenhouse gas companies, the oil companies, there's a huge amount of pollution, there's a huge amount of resource depletion that they cause or contribute. These policies counter that. But these policies till now doesn't stop them from doing that. So there's a gap, and that is why civil societies, young people, activists like us continue to advocate. Why is this like this? When there's like this, it's more of like people looking, on the other side. So I wouldn't say government is the major problem, but I would say government still needs to do more. While they're already doing the policies, they need to now support civil societies that would also contribute to this implementation. There are a lot of NGOs that are doing good works. All they need is the platform. All they need is the support, moral backing to say, do more. All they need is the grants openings, but this disconnects that civil societies don't get to work in harmony with the government. That is the gap. So they are not the problem, but they can make the solution work better if they contribute. Yeah.
Thank you very much. So basically, you're just saying, they just bring these policies and then that's all. No support, no nothing.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Aliu. So let's come to you, Daniel Audu. I want us to talk about, economic setbacks. Recently, for so many Nigerians, they say even the poor, the rich are crying right now. So many Nigerians, it's been difficult, and this is affecting what we're talking about right now. You see a woman who goes to the bush to cut down a tree. Of course, you can't tell her go and use gas to cook, because where is the money to go get gas? So the only option she has is to use firewood. So we could say political setbacks, economic setbacks are also reasons why we're having some of these challenges. Now let's talk about the green economy and these economic setbacks. How do you maintain momentum for green economy initiatives in the face of the economic and political setbacks?
Okay, thank you very much. In order to balance between the green economy and this one, there must be you have to try and bridge the gap. Now, in breaching that gap, one of those processes is just like you highlighted while asking me the question. Number one, you go to a community today, there is a poor woman, the mama. We all grew up from one community or the other. And each one of us had that understanding while growing up, cutting down trees. Just we don't even like these are things that we naturally grew up from. So we are not used to like just um valuing some of these trees like the living trees and all that in the society. So all we do continually is just to cut down these trees. We
Without
use
even
them for
planting another.
firewood, yes, without planting another. And secondly, all we do, we think about the money, because apart from just using some of these things for firewood, we have people who go and cut these things in commercial
sell.
quantities. They use them for wood, for furniture and buildings and a lot of things. So if we must try to sustain some of these practices and balance all these things, one of the things we must do, we have to go back into the afforestation process, whereby if you cut down one tree, you plant 3 or 4. So that one now will be able to help the environment to stabilize. That's one of it. Another one is we can go into the way we do before while coming up, we can go into crop rotation while farming. You don't just plant a single crop on the land. You keep rotating the crops so that to balance the mineral nutrients that is on the land. Now, if you are going into green economy fully, although Nigeria as a nation, we always say we want to go into green economy, but we have not fully implemented it. Just like he said, government policies, they are always there to just hamper the progress of everything. They can pass the thing into law, and then the power of implementation is another issue. So how do we implement some of these things? While you are trying to do this, you have to, like we as a civil organization, what we do, we try to liaise with the government to see that, okay, the government is supposed to be closer to the people. But when we see that there is that gap between the government and the people, so we come in, we serve as the intermediary between the government and the people. So we try to meet the grassroots people, and then we meet the government. We bring up that balance between the government and the people, and then to be able to bridge the distance, to reduce the gap between them. So what you do is, one of them is you bring up programs. We follow up government with their programs and their policies. Whatever government bring up as a policy, for example, then we follow it up with our own programs. Like, for example, of recent, we were in Kuje. I was speaking to him earlier on, and we were meeting the chief of Kuje, and we spoke to him about what we want to do. We had to meet some women, some group of mothers, and we saw that most of these women, they go into the bushes and they cut down trees. So we now said, okay, why not, rather than allowing these women to just go and cut down these trees and come with it, why not bring a policy? Why not bring up a program whereby we can help you cut the trees? We can do like subsidizing the cost of you going far to cut those trees. So we subsidize it for you, and we give you at a cheaper rate. But while doing so, every environment that we are cutting those trees, we now replant. So we do afforestation in the process. So whereby you now just going to the forest or the bushes to cut down these trees without even thinking about the environmental degradation, what it is causing to the environment. So it will now help us. While replanting, it takes away the desertification that is coming up. You see some places today that there were forests before, but all of a sudden today there are no more trees, because why? Deforestation has taken place, and then everywhere is now desert. One of our policies that we are that we are bringing up already, so we already plan to go into the Niger Delta, because if you check even the society of the Niger Delta, based on the pollution caused by companies and industries over there that are causing a lot of havoc in that society. When you see fish is dying, the water is not good, it is not safe, the community is not safe. You can't fish, you can't farm. So what we do already, the government already has Ogoniland cleanup in process up till now. So they are still doing it. It's something that will take a very long period of time to be able to complete. So we now as an organization, what we are trying to do is to go there and to keep educating the people. Once we keep educating and enlightening them, it helps them to understand that the government is not your enemy. These things have come and go, so your own is to try and to liaise with the government also to see that some practices like oil bunkering and all that people keep doing in that society, they don't know that they are harming themselves in the process. Because when someone goes and all he's looking at is the money, what you gain, but it's not thinking about the effect that practice is carrying out as at that moment we have on the society. And then it will also affect the climate of that environment. It will keep having the climate of that environment will be hazardous to your skin. And so in the process of you carrying out those activities that are dangerous and pungent to the society, you must also know the effect and the dangers of doing those things. So one of the things we are trying to do is to go into the Niger Delta community and to also educate and enlighten these people, to let them know why some of these things are not good. It's not that some of them don't even know actually. Some people are aware, but the grade for some of these things is also taking place ahead of the the good of the society. So these are just some few things that we are trying to do to try to bridge the gap between the to make sure that the environment is safe and secure for everyone, that at least that as we live in the society, for us to keep thriving and keep doing our business always. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Daniel Audu. So just before we go, Mr. Liu Sadiq has something really beautiful to show us talking about climate change. His team invented a climate change game, which we'd love to introduce to you all. So, Aliu, over to you.
Okay, thank you so much. So one of the things that we realized in the course of our education and advocacy program is, young people are becoming more bored about the whole technicalities and jargons of climate change, but they have to understand before they can be part of the solution. So because of that, my team came up to come up with this climate change game. We call it the Play, Learn and Act Now plan. It's more of a card game that engages young people to understand a lot of the conversation around the climate change, resource management, pollution, amongst others, and they're able to know the solutions. So it has what we call, there are the problem cards and there are also the solution cards. For example, this is gas flaring, and there are a lot of these problems. This is deforestation and so many others. We also have what we call the solution cards, all part of the game. For example, now this is climate smart agriculture. Now, rather than going to give you big essays on what climate smart agriculture is, you're able to easily understand it in like a card game. You're able to merge the solutions to the problem, and in the process it gives you a mental imagination of how you can contribute individually and collectively. And the idea is to get young people to understand and take climate action. We have currently started engaging young people in schools. Currently, we've reached more than 10 schools. And also, we are selling the game as part of our fundraising strategy. These games, we donate them to schools for free. So, if you haven't played Plan Game, please go to the website of EcoCycle or go to our social media. You can order for this for your young friends, family, and you can also use them for your climate change advocacy trainings. And we're also opening a donation for civil societies and NGOs across Nigeria to send the games for them for free if they have programs to do in schools, especially around educating young people about climate change. It also has the dictionary of all of the words here, so you get to know more, and it also has the playing manual on how you can play it. So this is one of our innovations, and we are leveraging on it to make and to redefine climate education so that everyone can be a part of it. That's why the name is Play, Learn and Act Now. So you play the game, you learn, and then you take action. Yeah, so that's Plan Game for you. now.
So we could just say it's a way of playing and learning what climate change is all about, and not using these big grammars that we've been using on screen.
People don't
Thank
like
you
it.
so much, Aliwu. Thank you, Daniel. Thank you,
Thank you.
Sylvanus, for
You're welcome.
coming.
Thank you.
And that's a wrap on The Pathfinder. I am Rachel Abioye. See you again.